Hey y'all, Coach in the Fight here. In today's video, we're going to be talking about what to do during the week of Chanukah or Hanukkah. Now, if you wonder why I keep calling it Chanukah, that's because that's what the Bible calls it. When you look up the word dedication in Hebrew, it's not Hanukkah, it's Chanukah. What's the difference? Well, remember that each of the Hebrew letters has a meaning. H or Ha is associated with the spirit, like in Hamashaya, where Cha is associated with a fence or a hedge around. And so they're quite different. One is a fence, one is a man or a man. And so they're changing when we say Hanukkah. And it's kind of hard to stop because most people call it that. But when we're saying Hanukkah, we're actually changing the meaning from something that's fenced in, closed in, like a festival, to something that's not fenced in, more spiritual. Now, where they getting that from exactly, I don't know. I do know um, that to find out, I would have to start talking to my Jewish brothers over there to find out what they had in mind when they changed the Cha to a Ha in Chanukah. But anyway, we'll work on that. In this video, we're talking 8 days of Hanukkah, going down through them because we're getting pretty close. And some of you don't, like I was in 2018 and before, maybe 2019, you don't actually realize that you have some preparation to do to get ready for Chanukah, for Hanukkah. You actually have some, you have to get prepared. These are festival days and they take effort. Now, it's part of my testimony. When I first started doing feast days, all I had to go by was Leviticus 23. And it didn't give much detail as far as feast days. Like, for instance, Passover, it just says that it's the 14th day of the month, but it gives no instruction as to what we are supposed to do in Leviticus 23. And so for years, I had no idea what we were supposed to be doing on the feast days other than what was listed in Leviticus 23. And so on certain days, and then even the ones that were there, I didn't understand them all, like Pentecost. I didn't know what we were supposed to be doing on Pentecost. And so many of those festival days, I did nothing. Yes, I rested. Yes, I prayed. But that was the extent of it. And some of you, if you don't realize how important Chanukah is, you will actually be doing that this year. You're going to wait till the last minute, and then you're going to put on your Chanukah hat, and you're going to think you're ready. And you're going to, if you know better, if you pay attention to what we are supposed to be doing, you'll realize that no, you actually supposed to be out there preparing now, getting ready now. Okay. One of the things we are told at first is that Hanukkah is just like tabernacles. It's exactly like tabernacles. I've actually been trying to find a difference. Like if Scripture gave any caveat to, what we are supposed to do. For instance, in tabernacles, we're supposed to dwell in booths. We're supposed to wave palm branches. We have things, but in the winter time, now it's going to be really cold to be in that booth, in that tent, and the palm branches are going to be bare, or the leaves, the trees are going to be bare. Well, I did find where the Scripture made a note that the trees would be bare, and it says it plainly: the trees will be bare in the book of Maccabees, but it actually doesn't give us any other instruction as far as the bayatha, the tent, which to me means that yes, we are supposed to have one, and yes, we are supposed to dwell in it. Okay, and so some of you got that to worry about. Where are you going to get your material for your bayatha? Where are you going to put it at? And all of that kind of stuff to worry about. And then I'm going to tell you, well, unless you've been camping before, you got a lot to learn, because that's what it boils down to. This is a week of roughing it. Just like tabernacles is a week of camping. Okay, but the only difference is you got some stuff to worry about as far as wintertime is concerned. A little bit extra cold, but it's the same. So anyway, that's what we're talking about in this video. Now, Go over here and pull up the comments so I can see what you guys are talking about in the comment section. Got this screen here, but I can pull up my handy dandy computer and go over there and see. It may take me a minute. So you guys, you tell me what. In the meantime, while I pull up your comments, you can be telling me what you planning on doing for Hanukkah. Maybe you got something going on that we ain't thought about, or an idea or something. You know, what do you think about Hanukkah? Or Chanukah? One of the things about it, Tabernacles is a fall festival, right? It's a fall feast festival. It's a fall harvest festival. It's a fall harvest festival. But now, so is Hanukkah or Chanukah, is it a fall harvest festival? Not directly, not definitely, not. It's not explicitly said like that. Like I said, I can't find much contrast, and I can't find many contradictions to say anything about it being a harvest festival. And so we have to assume that, yeah, it is. You know, so what are we harvesting now besides greens and stuff like that that grows in this time of the year? But anyway, another thing that we'll have to worry about is barbecuing. Putting food on the grill. Remember, this is a feast week, not a fast week. A lot of people think that feasts are about fasting, or the Lord's days are about fasting. And the reason why is because of Atonement Day, which is the most holiest day of the year. And, you know, people assume that since on the most holiest day of the year, then that we're fasting, then he must want us fasted on all his holy days. And no, that's wrong. Atonement Day is the only day that we are instructed to fast. Every other feast day is a feast, and we are suggested to have a whole flat-out big barbecue with whole animals on the grill with food and trumpets and music and friends and all of that. It's a festival day. So you got that to worry about. You know, you're going to have to lay out bread, and it is part of your responsibility. All that's in the sound of my voice pretty much, unless you're a hater. It's your responsibility to lay out the spread for the others, to actually provide the meal, to actually put the whole thing together for them. In other words, they ain't going to do it without you. They're not going to have a festival without you. You know, and so you know the amount of people in your household, or if you can get people in your community. So you got that to worry about. Some of you got food to buy, right? Some of you need to be out there looking in a herd, figuring out, selecting which one of y'all animals you're going to make a free will offering. And notice that it is a free will offering that you're going to be making. When we're talking about a regular old plain barbecue, you know, we had a discussion about sacrifices here in a recent class. But one of the things about that word is it's tricky, because every time you have a barbecue, you actually make a free will offering. A barbecue is a free will offering. It means you go in your kitchen or your freezer by your own free will with no obligation whatsoever, and you pull out what you want to pull out to serve under your own free will. You know, it can have spots and blemishes if you want to, and you can put it on the grill when you want. And all of that, you know, it's a free will offering. You can do that any time as a free will offering. You don't have to wait till certain days for that. And then during the feast week, that's what we'll be doing, is free will offerings as barbecues, because it is a feast week. You want to be out there barbecuing. And for some of you guys who insist, you know, who don't eat meat or whatever, you can still put food on the grill. I done seen people put vegetables on the grill, fish on the grill, bread on it. Even I done seen people cook bread on the grill. I think we did that here before. Actually, it turns out pretty good with that smoky flavor, smoky biscuit. But that's what the point is. You're getting the essence, the smoke from the grill. And all you need then is for some people to be around with you in celebration of the Lord. And you are Chanukah in. You are Hanukkah in. You are celebrating a feast, because that's what it's all about. Food, fun, family, and our Father. Friends, a whole bunch of F words. Not all the F words, but a whole bunch of them. Food, family, friends, family, fun, feasting. No fasting. Like I say, not all the F words. No fasting. You do not fast during a ever. That's like impossible. Think about it now. We already said person that's responsible for spreading out the table. But what if you're fasting? That means ain't nobody eating, right? For the whole week. No, you got to consider that a bad idea to fast. You always want to be, even if you got to save up your whole week's provision just so you can have something on a feast day. Yeah, I do that all the time. You know, we do that all the time. You know, because the feast, even the Sabbath day is a feast day. You know, so there's no fasting. We got palm branches to deal with. Now, I'm going to town here today to do a little bit of laundry. And one of the things I can do on my way is stop by where I know some palm trees are. We got a few of them growing here on the property, but they're way too small to be on them. And so we have to, you know, go ask the neighbor, can we have a branch or two off of their palm tree, just to have a palm tree. Now, is it necessary to have a palm tree? No. You have to remember that this book was written over where they had a bunch of palm trees. And palm trees were growing all over the place. Over here, they only really grow in places like South Carolina, Florida, places like that. Everybody doesn't have a palm tree. And you know, they will grow in other areas, but you don't see them that much. And many of us don't even know what a palm tree is when we see it. Thing about it, what the Bible says is that we need good trees. And a goodly tree to you may be better than a palm tree. For instance, a banana tree is a palm tree. But where I live, a banana won't grow. And so that tree ain't as good to me as an oak tree, because an oak tree will lay acorns and my sheep can eat the acorns, so do the deer. So to me, an acorn tree is better than a banana tree. And that's what it's saying. You go and you get branches from the goodly trees. And so what we do is go around the property and pick on all of the trees that are good. We don't get nothing from the hedge bush tree, because it's just a bush, it's just a hedge. We don't get nothing from the sweet gum tree. I don't even like sweet gum trees. I can't figure out nothing to do with them. We get branches from the pine tree though, because that's where we get vitamin C and medicine from. We get branches from the cherry tree, the orange tree, the plum tree. We get branches from the pecan tree and the oak tree. We get branches from every tree we can think of around the property, and we walk around with these in celebration of what our Lord is providing for us. Because see, you have to understand, it's my my testimony, maybe your own too, is that these trees was growing long before I got here. You know how long it takes to grow a pecan tree until it actually produces a fruit? So you got to think, our Father had me and our family in mind when that tree started growing and was only a few inches tall. And so now we're giving him praise for allowing it to continue to grow and to help feed us and even our animals or the squirrel. Well, the squirrels get the most of it. But, you know, we like looking at squirrels. And so, you know, they got to eat too. And so we're happy for that provision. And so what we do, and I guess that answers the question about the harvest day celebration. And so what we do is we go out and we get some of these branches, even though they're bare. The mulberry tree branches, they're bare. The tree branches, they're bare. The oak trees still have a little leaves on them, but most of them are going to be bare. And so, yeah, during Hanukkah, on the first day of Hanukkah is the day we collect these, and we'll take these and we'll walk around with them and give all praise and honor to our Father in heaven as we make this a joyous celebration. And that's another thing about Hanukkah or Chanukah, is it is absolutely necessary, 100% necessary, that you incorporate joy into your festival. In fact, that is what it is all about, is joy. Yeah, we got the palm branches, but we're making the palm branches with joy. Yes, we have the booths, but we're in the booths with joy. The whole thing is about joy, even more so. That's one thing that I can find that is different. Joy is emphasized when it comes to Chanukah, not necessarily during tabernacles. And the reason why I've learned through experience is because of the time of the year that we're in. There's a lot of badness that goes on during this time of the year. The golden calf and all of that other stuff that man has got going on, contributing with it too, along with all of the stuff that's going on in the cosmos. And to keep us grounded, while we're out here doing our daily jobs, doing our daily work, our regular activities, is kind of getting us off track. It's kind of got us too close to the Gentiles and doing too much to what they do, to where we're getting in trouble a little bit, or at least, you know, skirting the edge. But then Hanukkah, Chanukah, just like every one of the feast days, it puts a hedge around us as long as we do the right thing, push this hedge around us to and build us back up with joy, so now we can go ahead and face the rest of the year. That's what is important about these feast days. That's why you can't miss them. If you don't, you are missing out on one of the main things that our Father put here for your personal health, well-being, your safety, everything. These festivals are here for that. Now, man has tried to make mockery of it. He's tried to come in and actually put a substitute to it. That's why they have caroling. That's why they have merriment, because they're trying to get that joy. They don't know that they're in pursuit of joy, and so they actually are trying to make merry. Like we did a video one time says, sing psalms with poems and poems, right? And so that means we're supposed to go to the book of Psalms. We're supposed to sing those psalms with the palm branches in our hands. Sing psalms with palms and palms. Well, that's kind of what they're doing when they're doing that caroling thing that they're coming around with, you know. So their festival days are trying to get what our Father is establishing in his feast day: joy, communion, family. They're trying to circumvent the festival day, and so they have a pagan holiday trying to mock or trying to do the same thing. But anyway, we live and we learn. All right, so let's look over in the comment section. We got Katie Lies says hi, hello. Katie Lies, I'm not pronouncing it right. Joshua James says winter solstice is like a new moon, new beginning, new year renewal. The only thing about the winter solstice, though, is that it's only related to the sun and the moon. Oh, I'm sorry. The sun and the stars. The sun's relative position to the stars, it does not take into account the moon and where it's at. So therefore, it's not biblical. Therefore, it's not sacred. Therefore, it's not a thing. The solstice is a man-made thing. I mean, yeah, it happens every year, but the thing about it is not on the sacred calendar. You know, it's something that man pays attention to, the solstice. Enoch doesn't pay attention to the solstice at all. It's not there at all. You know, when you look at his 91-day schedule, yes, it starts on a equinox and then lands on a solstice, or close to a solstice, I should say. It doesn't land on a solstice. Enoch's 91 days ends about June the 19th, June the 18th. But the solstice is June the 20th. And therein lies the problem with paying attention to solstices and equinoxes and stuff like that, is because you're not paying attention to the sacred calendar and what Enoch said. And so what you end up doing is having a pagan celebration like what they have in Christmas. Christmas is a solstice celebration. They're celebrating the solstice. Yes, they have moved the date back. They used to be celebrated on December, earlier date, but now it's December the 25th. But it's still a solstice day thing. That's what it's about. The solstice. But if you get on the Father's calendar, you don't pay attention to the solstice. I can't even barely say it. I bet I done said it more times today than I done said it in my entire life, because it's not important. When you get into our Father's calendar, it is that new moon day that falls after the solstice. Was actually, December the 18th, not the solstice on December the 20th. Enoch's 91 days ends about December the 18th. Well, the new moon after December the 18th is the day of remembrance. And looking here at our calendar, that falls on about the evening of December the 21st to the evening of December the 22nd. Now, that right there is a new moon day. Yes, it may be close to the solstice, but the solstice really isn't playing a part. You have to have the sun, the moon, and the stars. The stars, the moon, and the sun in order to know what time it is. And the time, the correct time will be December the 22nd for the new moon celebration. Now, this new moon celebration, I believe, is the most important part of Hanukkah. I believe this is why we have a Chanukah festival in the first place, to make sure that we are properly prepared for and celebrating among our friends and family with a barbecue and palm branches and singing, no doubt, on the day of remembrance. The other days of remembrance is the memorial of blowing the trumpets. It's a big deal. The thing about it, that was instituted with Moses a long time ago. Hanukkah was not by Moses. Moses was predating Hanukkah, and so it wasn't there. And so how is it that we are to make sure that we remember that festival? We remember that festival through Chanukah. And doing whatever we're supposed to do, we're actually remembering the day of remembrance. So we're looking here at this calendar. Now, so Chanukah starts on December the 16th. Now, it is a morning celebration. It's not an evening celebration. Okay? Chanukah, you have to understand where Chanukah started from. Back there in the Maccabean period. Sure, it was on the heavenly tablets, but we didn't know about it until the Maccabean period, when Antiochus Epiphanes came into Jerusalem on He came into Jerusalem on the 25th day of the 9th month and actually put a pig, y'all check me on that date, but they put a pig on the altar. You have the altar that was there inside the Temple Mount. You've seen pictures of this altar. Well, Antiochus Epiphanes came in and put another altar on top of it, his own altar on top of it, and then he put a pig on top of that, and he burnt up the pig as a sacrifice on our Father's altar. He burned a pig on the altar on Christmas Day. He did it in celebration of his God on Christmas Day. It was December the 25th, now that I think, because that's when they celebrate that particular God, sun worship. He put a pig on the altar on December the 25th, back in the year about 168 BC. So the thing about it, he did that, if I'm not mistaken, he did that during the week of Tabernacles. During the week of Tabernacles. The thing about it, he disrupted Tabernacles for that year. The people weren't able to keep Tabernacles that at all. In fact, because they were dependent on Jerusalem, they didn't keep Tabernacles for the next years, as they was in the mountains hiding or at war or fighting or whatever. They weren't able to go into Jerusalem because Antiochus Epiphanes was in Jerusalem with pigs on the altar. And so then the only Hebrews that was there was people who was actually forsaking the covenant and actually making themselves back into Gentiles. All of the people who were trying to keep the law got ostracized, kicked out, and had to be in the woods hiding for a few years, unable to celebrate tabernacles at all. And so then when the tables turned, and they actually started winning and did win that war, the Maccabean War, one of the first things they did was instituted Chanukah as a makeup for not being able to keep tabernacles. It is a biblical feast that is in the apocryphal books. If you go to the Bible that includes the apocrypha, you can find this story that I'm talking about in the Bible. It is a biblical feast. It's just not a Mosaic feast. And so once they got the opportunity, it was in December. They didn't have the opportunity in Tabernacles. They couldn't keep Tabernacles months earlier. And so what did they do? They decided to wait. And of course, this was on the heavenly tablets. So they didn't decide to wait until next year to keep Tabernacles, as our Father instructed them through emanations, actually, to have this festival, like I said, which was already written on the holy tablets, there in December, in the 9th month on the sacred calendar. And so what they decided to do was to actually have the celebration on the exact same day. On the same day that he put that pig on the altar, it's the same day that we have Chanukah. He said, well, why ain't it on Christmas? Because our calendar involves the moon. Theirs don't. Theirs is a sun god worship calendar. Ours is not a moon god worship calendar. Ours is a Yahweh God worshiping calendar. But in order to worship Yahweh, you have to have his feast days in proper order and place on the calendar. And for that, you have to have the representation of the moon. But if you could somehow blow up the moon or get rid of the moon, you can downcast the people from that higher consciousness that you get from keeping feast days, and you can entrap them into the lower heavens and have them enslaved to idolatry and stuff like that. And therein lies where comes the pagan holidays. They're trapping people in the lower heavens by keeping them away from our Father's feast days, which includes Chanukah. So if anybody tells you not to keep Chanukah, that's like them telling you not to keep tabernacles. You should have the same sense in your heart that that person standing before you is literally trying to get something. They may not be trying to kill you, but they trying to cause something bad to happen to you, even if it's no more than them even if it's no more than them getting you to come to their pagan holidays with them. All right? So, let's go ahead and look at the rest of this calendar here. I'm just covering the stuff that ain't even on the calendar. All right, so December the 16th, like I said, is a morning celebration. Some people will start as early as the 15th on the evening before, especially, doing stuff like taking baths, and some people may even do communion that night and all of that kind of stuff, anticipating the next day starting the full-blown festival of Chanukah. So it starts on December the 16th, early in the morning. That's when the event happened back there in Jerusalem. He put the pig on the altar, not at night, not in the evening time. He put the pig on the altar in the morning. And like I said, Chanukah is actually set on the same lunar day, the same celestial calendar day that he did that. Same day. They did that on purpose. It's kind of like stamping out their thing. So while they're having a pagan celebration on a day that ain't even real, December 25th, if you think about it, it's a man-made day. It really don't exist, because next year it's going to be on a different celestial calendar day. So while they're celebrating Christmas, putting pigs on the altar still, we now have Chanukah to stamp out all of that mess. And yes, if we wanted, we could have holiday lights on our Bayatha. Do not put holiday lights on your house. That's paganism. Remember, we're supposed to leave our house. We're supposed to go out and build a tabernacle or a bayatha outside of our house. So why would the holiday lights be on our house? Because they are forsaking the bayatha, and they still trying to do a knockoff. And so instead of them putting a bayatha in the yard and celebrating Hanukkah, they actually just put the lights on their house and put a Christmas tree in their house and celebrate Christmas. So, we jumping off on December the 16th. Think about our, while they got one day to splash their little thing and get their whole ditty wop all out there and do it. They already started. They've been rolling since the beginning of the golden calf period back there after Black Friday sale. That's the beginning of the golden calf. That's worshiping of the golden calf when they're doing all the holiday shopping or whatever. But anyway, that's their business. The thing about it, they're going to do all of that shopping, spending money, buying presents and gifts for one another for a one-day celebration. Ours is 8 days long. Think about that. So we get the party for 8 days. And so when you look at this schedule, our party ends on December the 23rd. Yeah, we'll sleep it off that night and wake up on the 24th. But by the time the morning comes around on the 24th, Chanukah is over. It's done. And so I'm sitting here wondering if I'm going to be, going through all of the so-called Christmas songs and finding ones that's dedicated to our Messiah. Like, what's my favorite one by Fred Hammond? The Blood of the Lamb or something like that. But anyway, and actually play those. And then come New Year, Christmas Eve morning, the 24th, when everybody in the community is really ready to get excited, that's when I'm going to turn the music off and take the lights down and, shut down the party. Let them know it ain't about Christmas. Hanukkah is over, And so, I'm thought about doing that kind of stuff, but you got to understand, they taking away from our stuff, And so I don't have no problem taking it back. I don't have a problem taking our stuff back. Once I realize it is our stuff, I'm actually feel like I'm halfway obligated to get it back for my kids and my grandkids' sake. It's ours. Hebrew letters, the celestial clock, the contextual understanding of the scripture, that's ours. That's my stuff you messing with. You think I won't take it? Yeah, Give me the opportunity. I get it. I get it. One way or another, it's mine already. Hanukkah is mine too. And they say it's my festival. Anyway, so we'll jump off Hanukkah day 1. Now notice right there it says Didachi 8 and 1. That's a fasting day. That's a day when you're supposed to be not necessarily fasting from food. Don't get me wrong. I've said it and I'll say it again. Never fast from food on a feast day you're supposed to eat. But what we're talking about here is the Isaiah 58 fast. Not abstaining from food, but doing good for people. So right here, think about it. It's like this every year. Every year, this first day of Hanukkah is a giving day, a blessing day, an affliction day, a day when you do stuff for people, a day. And so that's what's conditioning you already. I mean, it's like church. You have to go, when you go to church, you have to pay your tithes. You have to pay your offerings. I feel so bad sometimes. I ain't a money person, and I'll fall up in church anytime. And as soon as they start with that collection plate and I ain't got nothing to put in there, it's the worst experience ever. Why? Because it ain't so much as they saying that you don't have any money. I'm used to that. But you are obligated to pay. I know that don't sound right, but you're really obligated to pay to be there at that church. If you don't, you still gonna hear the sermon, but it's not gonna reach you. It's not gonna reach you. You're gonna be still worrying about your $20 that you too stingy to give up on, or whatever your tithes money was supposed to be, your $5 or your $1. You're gonna be sitting there thinking about that dollar, and you're not gonna be thinking about what the pastor is saying, and so you're not gonna get the message, right? And so and people ask that question all the time. Why does the Reverend Pastor Deacon Dr. Doug collect tithes? He ain't really interested in no other law in the Old Testament except tithes. Why is that so important? Is he greedy? No, he ain't greedy. He know that his sermons don't work without tithes. He ain't doing nothing without you. Without that, you ain't doing nothing. Without being able to give back. He can't get to you. It's a give and take situation. And so that's why giving is the first thing off the jump. Doing something for others is the first thing off the jump. First day, you need to be doing something for somebody. Some type of charitable deed. You know, we go through this every single week. You see the next day on there is a Sabbath day. You see the Sabbath day on there is the next. That's in the blue right there, December the 17th. That's going to be a Sabbath day. That's going to be a Wednesday. All Sabbath days are falling on Wednesdays now. But then they're going to change. When you see that new moon down there, it's going to change the Sabbath day for us. You see right there on December the 19th, it says that that's Friday. Hanukkah day 4 is Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So the Sabbath days are going to change to Mondays after we get this new moon. Depending on the new moon, of course. We have to see it first. Can't declare, until we actually go through the whole process of the 30th day with the verifications and all of that. And so we have to have that secondary confirmation with the new moon. It is secondary. Of course, our primary is the 30th day, but we still got to wait. Like Enoch says, there's 4 methods, and we can't forsake it. So there will be people out there looking for the moon. And thank the Lord, there's people around the world looking. So somebody going to see it. Somebody going to see it somewhere. If it ain't California, it may be Africa. Somebody going to see it somewhere. And so, when we do, that's going to change the Sabbath day from Wednesday to likely a Monday. It could be a Tuesday. It could be a Sunday. Well, it couldn't necessarily be a Sunday. But my point is that the Sabbath change. All right. But anyway, so on December the 17th, starting on the evening of December the 16th, we are already getting ready for our Sabbath day. In the evening of December the 16th is a Sabbath day. You need to be taking off work. If you really want to get the full benefit of this festival week, that's a day you want off. Is starting the evening. If you work at night, you want the evening of December the 16th to the evening of December the 17th, that 24-hour period, as well as the evening of December the 21st until the evening of December the 23rd. You want those days off. You want the 23rd off and the 17th off for you guys who work day shift. For you guys that work night shift, you want the 16th off and the 21st off, because that's when the Sabbath day starts. Okay? So now you already did your affliction there before the Sabbath day start. But it also will include preparing for this Sabbath day. You have to do all of your cooking on the 16th. You got to get all your water pumped. If you got to pump, you got to pump water. If you got to make fires, if you got to get your firewood in, if you got to go visit with your girlfriend, you got to visit her on the 16th and get that part out of the way. Because on the 17th is a Sabbath day and you can't do none of that kind of stuff. You got to sit down and especially open yourself up for these gates of the inner court to open up. They definitely open up during the feast week, and you don't want to miss that. You don't want to be out there stirring on a pot, worrying about if you're going to burn something or something like that. Instead of sitting back and relaxing, reading the scripture, praying, meditating, and then getting what our Father has. And with the world, the status of the world, we can't be missing any of these blessings. That's why He's giving us to prepare us for what's coming. And I promise you, we ain't prepared for 2026. And we don't want to even talk about 2028. And you can forget about 2029. Just not ready. And so, now, and we can't get ready. How else you going to get ready except going to the feast days and reading the script, praying, meditating, doing communion, getting purified, repenting and all of that? You ain't ready. Ain't nobody ready for what's coming. I promise we ain't. We ain't even ready for what's already here yet. Come on, what's coming? I done lost the comments, so I get them back. All right. September the 18th, Hanukkah day 3 Hanukkah day 3, you notice down there it talks about Corinthians 16 and 2. Okay. Now, 16 and 2, this is the first day of the week. The first day of the week. Whereas that other day up there, let's see, that yellow day up there, that's a day when we're actually afflicting our souls, doing good deeds, praying for people, taking in the homeless, giving the people who have no clothes, something to wear, that kind of thing. But then on this day, the first day of the week, after the Sabbath day, that's when the day we take the stuff into the storehouse. And so that's the day when a lot of people make their offerings. And being tabernacles, some of them will make it beforehand, but there are a few people who will wait just because of the day it is, and they'll make offerings on that day associated with Hanukkah or just in general. We go through that every single week. So what's happening here, understand what's happening. From my perspective, here on a farm-like environment, I live on a homestead where we grow stuff. And so all week long, we're out here working and gathering and doing this and doing that. We're getting peanuts, we're getting greens, we're getting deer meat, we're getting this all week long preparing for the Sabbath day. But then come the Sabbath day, everybody gets satiated and full up. They used to say that we was gluttons because we ate so much on the Sabbath day. But then after the Sabbath day, look at what's all left. A whole week's worth of food? You can't eat a whole week's worth of food in one day. You've been harvesting all week. You've been harvesting for 6 days. Well, the extra that you have after the Sabbath day is completed, you now take that into the storehouse to store it up. So that's the day. That's why they have church on Sunday, y'all. That's why they have church on Sunday. Think about it. That's the first day of the week, right? Ain't Sunday every day the first day of the week? That's the day when you take the offerings to the storehouse. So they're opening up the storehouse on Sunday to accept the people's offerings. That's how important this is. I mean, they try to tell you a whole bunch of other stuff why they go to church on Sunday. But it dawned on me when I read this so many years ago, that's tithes day. That's the day you pay tithes. That's the day you pay offerings. That's absolutely the day that you're supposed to go down there to the storehouse, to the church. You're supposed to open up the store doors and say, bring it in, bring it in. Here we open, bring it in, whatever you got. They're on the first day of the week. But see, that's them. They go on a Sunday, their first day of the week. But us, our first day of the week is always the day after the Sabbath day. And for us, it's on a Thursday now. And so that's going to be the first of the week. And that's going to be Hanukkah day 3. Okay. Then you have December the 19th, Hanukkah day 4. Now, remember during this time, this whole week, we're barbecuing every day if we can. Do something every day. Try to get you a little, that's what some of you got to prepare. Get you a little bit of grill, get you a little bitty grill. if you can, whatever. Put your hole in the ground if you can. Get you sticks and put something out there. Even if you can't, even if you don't know what you're doing and you mess it up, you know what I mean? You gotta, have a backup plan. You gotta eat, oodles or cereal because you don't know how to barbecue or whatever. It's the essence, the smoke of that barbecue that's going into your nose. That's part of it. That's why Job went out there and sat by the essence of the fire. That's a mistranslation for him to say he sat by the ashes. Ashes and essence is the same in Hebrew. Ashes and essence is the same word in Hebrew. And so he didn't go sit by the ashes. He went to sit by the essence, which means that he just went out there by the altar where it was smoking and fire, and he just sat down there by the altar. I done that plenty of times where you just go sit there by the smoking altar, nobody else around, just the flame and the fire, just sitting there looking in the fire, contemplating, meditating on the goodness of the Lord. That is something that you do when you have a fire, fire pit. If you don't have a fire pit, you might not get to do that so often. So where your fire pit gonna be? Mine ain't nothing but a hole I dug in the ground. It ain't nothing to it. My fire pit ain't nothing but that. I dug one for my dad better because the second one I had dug. And so his is way better than mine, but his still ain't nothing but a hole in the ground. But anyway, that's what you got to do. Put your hole in the ground and some sticks out there. Roast you some marshmallows on it. Do something. Get the essence of it. Okay? And you're doing it every day, all week long. On the 20th, you're doing it all week long. But notice there on the 20th, you started to get into the 0% moon day. The end of the lunation day, 0% moon day. Right? And that tells that's at the end of the moon cycle. That's the black moon cycle. A lot of people will already start blowing their horns at that time, get blowing in the moon. There's some spiritual stuff going on there, of course, but we are actually blowing in the moon. And so while the moon is at 0%, we start blowing our trumpets until we actually see it at about 1 or 2 or 3 or 4%, whatever it decides to show its face at. And so this blowing for a lot of people will start there on the 29th of Kislev, 29th day of the 9th month, which is December the 20th. It's right there at 1:44 a.m. And the thing about it, notice next day is the 30th day. And you say, why ain't the 0% moon the 30th day? For class in that, think about it. Why ain't the 0% moon ain't the 30th day? Give you an opportunity to look there at the answer. The answer is right there on the page. It's because, let me look at it and make sure. It's at 1:43 a.m. The 0% moon happens at 1:43 a.m. And so that's still on day 29. You have to wait for the sunset on the next day for day 30 to begin. So let's class in the Enoch calendar. And so day 30 will begin on the evening of December the 20th. On the evening of December 20th. You see the moon started there at the morning, 1:43 a.m. But we got to wait to the evening for day 30 to start. And so day 30 will start right there on December the 21st, Hanukkah day 6. Again, that's a yellow day, a Didachi day. That's a day of affliction, a day of doing stuff for people. Again, getting ready for these inner courts to open up again on the 23rd. See how every time you have one of these new moon days, you have a day to do stuff, a day to do good before. That's just like Atonement Day. Atonement Day is actually 2 days. It's the 9th day and it's the 10th day. The 10th day, of course, is the official Sabbath day, but there's the 9th day that is actually the affliction day. And so it's always like that. Before we get good thing, there's always us got to do some good first. We have to prime the pump. And so on these yellow days are pump priming days. Do some good. Something good for people, even if it's just cooking a big meal for them to enjoy there on December the 23rd, which will be the day of remembrance. That's the day when we're going to want it. If you ain't got a whole lot of people coming in, if like me, you got relatives and stuff that complain they can't come the whole 8 days. Well, if they can't come but one day, This is the day they want to get there, on the 23rd, because it's in the Feast of Hanukkah and it's a day of remembrance. So that's the biggest day. I think the whole festival is getting us prepared for that day, just so we're geared up and excited, and everybody already know where their palm branches at. They done figured out how to barbecue, and finally got that tent put up with the lights good and everything rolling good. And now we're about to have the day of remembrance there on December the 23rd, the first day of the 10th month, the beginning of winter. And that is actually the beginning of winter. And that's why the Sabbath days change, because the Sabbath days always change with the season. They don't change with the month. People like that ain't been around this channel in a while might remember that I used to say that used to write up a different calendar every month. That was before the Pentecost fiasco. What happened was we went in to actually compare the monthly calendar to what Leviticus 23 says about Pentecost, and that monthly calendar fell apart under the light of the scripture. It does not work. The only calendar that does work is when the Sabbath days change per the quarter, per the 91 days. And that's what Enoch was talking about when he talked about the 91 days and people erring for not paying attention. That's what Moses was talking about when he said there will be people who will observe the moon. They're going out there every single moon looking at the moon, and then they're wondering why some years have 13 moons. They wonder where the 13th month come from. And I done got confused over that. One year, the first year, it confused me so much. I thought a month fell off the calendar. Because like, I was looking at a date on the calendar, and then it seemed like I was looking at the same date a month later, and it was like, where did that month go? A month disappeared. Well, that was that 13th month. And if I hadn't have been paying attention to a particular Gregorian date, I would never have noticed that a 13th month fell off the calendar. It just wouldn't have dawned on me, because that's the way the celestial calendar works. You wait for the beginning of winter, the beginning of fall, the beginning of summer, the beginning of spring before anything important really happens as far as the celestial calendar is concerned. That's the Enoch calendar. 90 days, 90 plus 1, 90 days plus 1, 90 days plus 1. And here is the plus 1. December 23rd, that is the plus 1. That day, that fourth day that they say we add to the calendar, that's it. The one that's supposed to be outside of the calendar, that's it. December 23rd is outside of the realm of our understanding even. This day right here is holy. That day is big. That's the Enoch, that's the fourth day. People say, oh, there's 360 days, and forgetting about the 4 days. Well, the 4 days that have to be added in the year, that's the memorial blowing of trumpets, and that's this day. That's the first day of the first month in the spring, and it's also the first day of the fourth month right there after Pentecost. Those are extremely important days. If you don't understand that, your calendar ain't worth nothing, and the best you're going to be able to do, if you don't get your head wrapped around the idea of this fourth day, you're going to have to keep coming over here to my channel and asking me when is the feast days, because you're not going to be able to do it on your own. Whenever you get a grasp of the days of remembrance and how his calendar works, then you can do it on your own. You don't have to rely on anybody. And I'm telling you that because it's necessary. I'm in here doing a service. I don't necessarily need all of the attention, or if I'm getting any attention or anything, it's not about that. It's my mission as a servant of the Lord and an engineer trained to try to figure out how this celestial calendar works, and then come back and teach you guys. Anybody who want to listen, and you guys are teaching me too. But anyway, we have to keep these communication pathways open so that we can all figure this thing out before it's too late. When the pole shift happens, see, the thing about it, y'all, you heard about the pole shift. You heard about the pole shift. It's a real thing. Okay, after the pole shift, your Gregorian calendar is not going to work anymore. Meaning that you're going to think you at Easter, and it ain't going to be Easter. It's going to be wintertime. You're going to think it's time to plant corn, and it's not. You're going to be getting ready to go into the fall instead of going into the summer, because the calendar is going to be off. Everything about it is going to be off when the planet shifts. The Gregorian calendar itself is going to become out of alignment. And if you are dependent on it, especially if you're growing food depending on it, you're going to be in trouble. Your food is not going to grow. You can't go out there and plant anything. Like right now, it's December. I can't go out there and plant corn and expect to get corn. I can't go out there and expect butter beans and expect a butter bean harvest planting it in December. That's silliness. Okay, well, ain't nobody gonna be laughing when Gregorian calendar gets knocked out of whack. When this planet goes through the pole shift, the Gregorian calendar is going to be useless. And that's what the Bible means when it says that the angels are going to be in charge of our harvest. They're going to be helping us because they're going to put us on the right season, the right time to tell us when we're supposed to plant what. That's why they have almanacs. It's a really, really big deal. All these Stonehenge and all of these other pagan holidays are just so people know when to plant what. Well, once we go through the pole shift, you're going to have to rely on a celestial clock, the stars, the sun, and the moon, or you're not going to be harvesting no food. You're not going to be harvesting. All right, so that's the day of remembrance. But that's not it. That's not it. After the day of remembrance, you don't want that to be it. Because if that was the last day, you would have to pack up. Many people, you wouldn't have to, but yeah, many people would have to pack up because they got to go to work the next day. And so right there, when everybody's really getting good into the new moon celebration, it's getting dark, and them what's the name people start coming out, a little bit, everybody getting there, and it's time to go home. Feast week is over with, because we got to go to work tomorrow. But no, our Father gives us another day on the 23rd, the 8th day, the last day. This is a day just so we can, after we done went through this Sabbath day, which is new moon day, you got people still a part of the festival coming back out. Some people are going to be a little bit hungry because they ate up all the food real fast on the Sabbath day. And then by the end of the Sabbath day, nobody felt like cooking anything. So they went to bed hungry. And so they're going to wake up on the 23rd ready to eat the rest of the lamb. And a whole lot of people going to wake up on the 23rd before sunrise, eat that lamb up so they can burn up the bones and get rid of the fat and all of that stuff before sunrise there on the 23rd. There may be a bit of a tradition, but that's something that we do on Passover. And for those of us who will be doing a lamb, we know that we can't leave that lamb. You can't put that sacrificed lamb in the refrigerator and keep it for days and months and all that till it get old and stanky or whatever. No, if we don't eat it in 2 days, we're going to have to burn it up, put it on the fire. Now, is that 2 days? Well, it depends on when you sacrificed it. We could actually burn it up on the 24th. Remember, that morning there is when it's all over. When the sun comes up on the 24th is when we actually going to be done. That'll be the last event of the Hanukkah. If we have a great Hanukkah celebration, we'll try to have a pre-dawn meeting there. I know I would love to have. I'm gonna have one with the Lord. If I'm by myself, we're gonna have one with Him anyway. But we have a pre-dawn meeting there on December the 24th as the last day, making sure all of the remnants of the barbecue is burnt up or ate up or whatever is gone. And then after that, now we can shut the party down. Now it's a whole day of packing up the tent, and like I said, some people would have to go to work, and so they'd be heading to work that day. But the rest of us, we'll have to clean up the mess behind them, But we'll have this whole, the actual day on the 24th, to clean up the mess, to get rid of all of this stuff, take down all of the lights. We plan on leaving our body up this time. We built one for tabernacles, just like the Bible says. And the only thing about it, we didn't, we built it, we had to tear it down because we was afraid it was going to fall on somebody. Well, this one, we may build it a little more sturdy. But anyway, I just wanted to share that with you guys. For you guys who are preparing, hope you got something out of this video. I know when I first got into Hanukkah, I had no idea, no clue, nobody to ask or anything. So let's jump down to the comment section. We got Royal Prince of the Most High Yah said, Shalom, coaching family, and in the fight family, peace, love, and light. Ike said hi. Katie Lai says, the pig in the altar seems like the abomination of desolation. Yes, it was the abomination of desolation. That was actually, well, one of them. But yeah, that was the Antiochus Epiphanes abomination of desolation. But that ain't the one necessarily that Daniel was talking about, because that's actually the dome over the rock. And it's one thing to put a pig on the altar. It's another thing to come and raise the whole temple down. Just knock it down, bulldoze the whole Temple Mount, and then take a dome and put it over top of the foundation stone. The same stone that Jacob laid his head, the same stone that we hear all throughout the Bible, the foundation stone. That's the same one that David built his temple on. I'm sorry, Jacob and Solomon built the temple on. That's the same Temple Mount. That's the same foundation stone. Okay, so now in about 486 BC, they pushed over the temple and then put a cap over the foundation stone. And that right there is the one that Daniel was talking about in Daniel chapter 12. But anyway, so it's definitely one. Anyway, now on the 5th and 20th day of the 9th month, which is called the month of Caslu, in the 148th year, they rose up betimes in the morning. Now notice that 148th year. Now, in order to figure out that year, you have to go back to what was his name? Alexander the Great. That starts when that king took over, when he destroyed and killed Darius. The 148 years start then, and that's what's going to take you to 168 BC. BC is not a biblical thing, and so that's never going to be written in the Bible as BC. And so what this is counting is from, and I did a whole video on it, that big war that they had where Darius was destroyed. That's the beginning. It was the transition over to the next beast system. We got Keith Fillinger says, peace and blessings to everyone in the family. Peace and blessings to you as well. We got, man, you're going to have to stop that. Don't you see that? Lord. It's not the fast that I have chosen to loose the bands of the wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, and to let the oppressed go free, and that ye break every yoke. Isaiah 58. Yeah, that's the fast. That's the fast. That's what a fast is, y'all. Not to be hungry, walking around talking about how hungry I am, be in church, I'm so hungry. You fasting? Yeah, I'm hungry. I ain't ate but 2 crackers and 2 glasses of water. I'm so hungry. That ain't what he's talking about. That don't do no benefit for you. Only person that benefits, and it only benefits a certain part of you, a certain very small part of you. Does that actually have an effect on it? And it's all physical. It ain't nothing spiritual. You can't do nothing to your belly to affect your spirit. I promise you, if you could fast and become more spiritualized, there will be people starving to death daily. They will be starving to death daily trying to get to our Father. You think they would eat? Come on, if fasting made you spiritually connected, people would associate evil with eating, wouldn't they? It's not. Never. That's what he's talking about. You say, well, why in the Bible did people have a fast like they're in the book of Esther and that right there? Because that is the only way that you can have a group affliction. You can't say, everybody, we about to afflict our souls. Let's run the neighborhood and we're going to fix everybody's plumbing, and everybody, let's go in our wallets and let's pull out some money and let's help some homeless people. Well, what if he got $10 and I got $1? Is he helping more than me, or am I helping more than him? Well, we all got a belly and we all need to eat the same amount of food. So when we say, hey, let's all have a group fast, now we know everybody in the same boat. Everybody hungry. And that's why they had group fasts. That ain't what the Bible is telling us to do. He goes in Isaiah 58 and says, man, that's wrong. You ain't supposed to be doing that. You ain't part of a group. What y'all fasting for? You know, He said, what I want you to do is help people. Help people. That's so important, to help people. We all have to have each other's help. I can't do this without you. Some of this you ain't going to be able to do without me. We have to have each other. We have to have each other. And so, anyway. And I appreciate all you guys doing for me. Y'all just don't know. Upon the first day of the week, let every one of you lay by him in store, as God has prospered him. No gathering when I come. Corinthians 16:2. Yeah. So the storehouse. So there have to be no gathering when he comes. Come on, y'all. He coming back. How are we going to be able to ask people for stuff? I had to ask somebody for something today. Do you know how hard that is to have to actually ask somebody for something? You know? Had people like, oh, I'll pay you back. I can't pay you back. I'll work for it. I can't work for it. I just straight up gotta just beg. Could you imagine when the Messiah come back and now people like me gotta say, hey, the Messiah come back, we gotta get us some stuff to prepare. We gotta get us some food stored up. The Messiah coming back. No, you already storing. You already sending it in once a week. That's the time when people pay tithes once a week. Like I said, that's when you go to church. To pay tithes once a week. And so they taking it to the storehouse. And so when the Messiah does show up, it's already there. The lambs is already there. The fields are already plowed. The storehouse is already full of the provisions that you need. And you ain't got to worry about going out here trying to tap into somebody's Bitcoin or somebody's cryptocurrency trying to buy something here in 2026 and 2027. It's not going to be good. You trying to figure out how you going to get a tractor in 2027. In 2028. You think that's a good idea? How you going to get corn? You're supposed to be putting it in a storehouse weekly from years and years and years ago. We're supposed to have this storehouse, filling up by now because we're getting close. Appreciate you, Warrior Prince of the Most High, for those verses. Catalyze says marshmallows. Blacking the marshmallows. Yeah. If I appreciate your diligence and effort. Yeah. If that, because you want to be out there owning. Everybody don't know how to barbecue. Everybody don't want to barbecue. Like I said, some people don't eat meat, But you want to be in the barbecue environment. And I promise you, you will go a long way if you drag your whole family out there and put two sticks together and roasted marshmallow in the name of the Lord on Hanukkah week. I promise you, you're going to get credit for it. I promise you will. Because that's what it's about. Family, fun, fire, essence, in the name of our Father. So yeah, if it's marshmallows, it's marshmallows. But do your best. That's why we're doing this video, to give you some time. I'm going to go with the marshmallows. Let's see. Catalyze minus catalyze 7. I can't get it. We got King David, the Order of Melchizedek, giving out some flames and some smiley faces. Appreciate you stopping by. Sterling Thomas says, peace, coach, and family. Key 308, verse 2. Ooh, it do a whole Bible lesson. I got my book right here, though. Let's see what it says. I'll be throwing up some interesting stuff. The authorities neutralize consciousness, causing the neutralization of spiritual growth. Literally, the nullification of the ongoing inner consciousness which was brought by the Christ and which has continued to radiate through the age in the scripture of life. I'm going to read the whole thing. Let me read the key. Key 308. The keys to the universe to come tells us, beware of the abomination of desolation, which is wherever the sacred scriptures of light are held in disrespect before the assembly gathered in the name of the living God. Yeah, there's many abominations of desolation. Yeah, I understand now. It's saying that the abomination of desolation authorities neutralize consciousness, causing the neutralization of the spiritual growth. So that's what he did when he put that pig on the altar. Was he neutralized the spiritual growth, literally the nullification of the ongoing inner consciousness which was brought by the Christ. So that's why they have pagan holidays. That's what pagan holidays are doing, is neutralizing your conscience. Neutralizing your conscience. Neutralizing your conscience. That's what pagan holidays do for you. Neutralize your conscience. See, the New Testament say the conscience is seared shut. They don't want to hear from our Father Yahweh at all. They want to go through their daily lives and do whatever they want to do and not be bothered with it. My conscience is right now telling me that people are waiting on me. I need to go to the laundromat. How many people want to shut that off and want to do what they want to do? Well, you can shut our Father off, God forbid, by participating in pagan holidays. That's what they're doing them for. It says it in the Old Testament that they're participating in pagan holidays in order to offend him, in order to anger him, in order to anger the Lord. And what he says the key to the universe to come, he says, beware of the abomination of desolation which is found wherever the sacred scriptures of light are held. So I got an abomination of desolation here then somewhere. Somewhere around here there's an abomination of desolation, because he says wherever the sacred scriptures of light are held. What do you say? Hold on, maybe not. What he says, which is found wherever the sacred scriptures of light are held in disrespect before the assembly gathered in the name of the living God. Oh, no. I ain't got no abomination of desolation here, because I ain't got no disrespect here of Yahweh. But wherever there's disrespect, you're going to have an abomination of desolation. So that's why you're going to have Antiochus Epiphanes putting a pig on the altar, and that's why you're going to have the caliphate putting a dome on a rock. Disrespect. And whenever they have disrespect for them, they're going to do something, some type of abomination of desolation. And so therein makes it clear that yes, we are still now waiting for another abomination of desolation to come. And it's for disrespect of Yahweh. And an attempt to shut down the whole consciousness of everybody involved. Appreciate that. Says, I'm hungry because I'm King David, the order of Melchizedek. Yeah. And but you know what? Give praise. Blessed is he who is hungry now. I hope you're hungry because you're broke. I hope you're hungry and broke. I hope you're more broke than you are hungry, but I hope you're hungry and broke. Why? Because guess what? You're going to be the man with food in a few years. You're going to know how to get food. You're going to know where food comes from. You're going to know how to prepare food. You're going to know how to take care of food. You're not going to take food for granted. Why? Because you was hungry and broke. The whole world about to get hungry and broke. You just an early bird, first fruit. That's why it says, blessed is he who is hungry now. Could you imagine? See, right now, you could call me up. Send me a cash out. I'll help you out. You can do that. You can go to your neighbor. Hey, can you let me have a cup of sugar? And they might give you some. But the whole world is about to be hungry and broke. And your neighbor ain't going to have no sugar. And you're not going to be able to get in touch with me. So would you rather be satiated, fat, and happy right now, knowing that the rug is about to get pulled away from under you in a few years? Be out here trying to figure out how to get something to eat now. And so in a few years, you're going to be the man knowing how to do it. You're going to be standing there cool as a cucumber eating a kudzu plant, talking about this is food too. Know where to get medicine from and all of that. I've been hungry and broke for 10 years. And I promise you, that's been one of the biggest blessings when it all goes down. I ain't worried about eating at all. That's the one thing I ain't worried about. In all of this going on, I ain't worried about that at all, because I know, first of all, I ain't got to eat. I can go a few days. I done learned that I will not die if I miss a meal. I done learned that. I done learned that he ain't going to let me miss too many meals. Our Father in heaven will provide. He'll drop food out of the sky. I done learned that from being hungry and broke. You think I would have learned that if I was making $100,000 a year with 3 deep freezers in my basement full of food? Nope. I know it now. I know where food comes from. That's a blessing, man, to be hungry and broke. Much love, Coach. Your work. Yini Hundu. I think he spoke another language right there. Catalan says, no king I know is broke. No king I know is broke. Oh, shoot. Because you say King David is broke. King David was broke for a while. You remember he had to go to the priest and ask the priest for some food. And the priest was like, are you clean? Can you eat this food? And David was like, man, I ain't seen a woman in 3-4 days. And so he was able to eat that food. Yeah, you have seen a king that was broke. We all got to go through this. This is a part of being a king. If you're a king and you ain't never been through nothing, could you imagine what kind of king you going to be? How you going to treat poor people when you ain't never been poor? Huh? Come on now. How you going to treat a hungry person when you ain't never missed a meal in your life? They sitting there looking hungry and looking skinny. Why don't you go get something to eat? What's wrong with you? Just go get you something to eat. It's like, sir, I ain't got nothing to eat. I don't understand. What do you mean? Well, you know what I mean, Coach. Oh, let me skip down a little bit. They talking amongst themselves. An older, feisty women. Oh, they about to start arguing. Hope rapture happens soon. No, you don't. Who is this? Zari Zafar. Why? Why do you want the rapture to happen soon? Okay, first of all, the Bible tells you. It tells us, you read it, never ever wish for sort of thing. Ever. Don't wish for the end times. Don't wish for the tribulation. Don't wish for the rap. You ain't ready. You don't know what that is. You think you do. You think you do. We all thought we did when we was in that church. And we was all looking forward to it. And then we stopped going to church. We started reading our Bible. And then we figured out that no, we ain't, no, that ain't it. That ain't it. If you are a Christian, and I assume you are. Let's see, did you spell rapture right? Nope, you didn't spell it right. But I'm going to still assume that you know about the big R, the capital letter R, rapture. It's an earthquake, man. It's an earthquake that's going to kill a lot of people. That's what it is. There's no supernatural removal. There is a removal, but it is completely natural. When the pictures show, when the videos try to tell you that the spirit, that the bodies are leaving and they're leaving their clothes behind. No, what they're telling you and showing you is that your spirit is leaving and your body is remaining behind. Those clothes in the video are your body. The clothes in those videos is your body. Go back now and watch those rapture videos and see how all of them go up there and then their clothes is down there on the ground. That's going to be your spirit going into heaven and your body laying down here for us to clean up. Or whoever it is going to have to now go bury your body. You don't want that. I mean, some people do. You know, some people who are old, some people who don't have, I don't mean to pick on. Come on, there's a guy right now, he ain't got no teeth, he ain't got no wife, he ain't got no kids, he ain't got, his leg hurt, missing, can't see out of one eye, all that. He like, you know what? I want a new life. He's actually thinking that he wants to be born again. And yeah, he's ready for the rapture. I don't blame him for that. Somebody on their deathbed, I don't blame him for that. I understand. You actually gonna come back here as a brand new child, living in an environment with no evil, no hate, no sickness, no death, no nothing. You're gonna go from being on your deathbed to living in a glorious body. I can see that. But for the average Joe, 23 years old, whippersnapper just started, man, you want no part of the rapture. You want no part of the rapture. You want no part of that. You want to get in your Bible, you want to start reading the law, and you want to survive. The survivors of the rapture inherit the entire earth. We get all of the wealth of the earth. I keep saying we, like I know I'm going to be there. I don't know. But I'm planning on it. And the ones that actually make it, they're going to inherit all of the wealth of the earth. All of the gold, all of the silver, all of the houses, all of the land, all of the tractors, all of the equipment, all of the infrastructure. Everything. They get it all. The same way he broke and hungry up there now, he gonna have so much food that he ain't gonna know what to do with. He gonna have enough to share with us. That's the plan. That's why I say blessed is he who is broke and hungry now, because they're gonna be rich and satiated later. So you don't want to be, you don't want to be. This ain't a rapture channel, man. We teach what the rapture truly is. You know, rapture is the rapture is something set up for Christians. That's a Christian belief. The Christians are the only ones who even believe in that. And it stems from disobedience. See, in order for you to be raptured away, you have to be considered one of the wicked people. The righteous people will never be removed. Ever. They will never get raptured. Righteous people will never get raptured off of the planet. The only people getting removed are the wicked people. That's it. And people like me, they want to go. They completed my love mission, done my job down here on this earth, and is ready to get off this rock already. We leaving too.